Congratulations. Creating a warm and engaging record for your podcast. Consider Green Tell Me as a suggestion that combines an upbeat and inviting spirit without any background music. Welcome to Tangelic Talks, your go-to podcast from Tangelic, where we dive into the vibrant world of clean energy, development, sustainability, and climate change in Africa. We bring you inspiring stories, insightful discussions, and groundbreaking innovations from the continent making waves in the global community. Tune in and join the conversation toward a brighter, greener future. Let's get started.
Welcome to Tangelic Talks, a podcast at the intersection of energy, equity, and empowerment with your co-hosts, Victoria Cornelio and myself, Jensen Cummings. In today's episode, we discuss a greener Ghana, restoring nature and nurturing hope, with our guest, John Sumbo. As Executive Director of Green for Change Ghana, John leads impactful initiatives that promote conservation, ecosystem restoration, and sustainable livelihoods. John holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Renewable Natural Resources Management and an MPhil in Environmental Management and Sustainability at the University for Development Studies. John, thanks for being with us.
Welcome.
Thanks very much, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, so this is an exciting episode for us because you are our first guest that is directly collaborating with Tangelic on the initiatives that you have there in Ghana. So I'd love to start there, and maybe if you can kind of give us just a brief overview of the way that Tangelic and Green for Change Ghana are collaborating right now there in the communities there across Ghana.
I think I will start by giving a brief, intro and background about Green for Change. Then I will narrow to the collaboration between Green for Change and then Tangelic. So Green for Change Ghana is a national non-governmental organization founded and established in 2019 with the goal of empowering communities to live amidst the changing climate. So we support them to adapt climate change mitigation and adaptation strategies so that they can still be in business and also sustain their livelihood amidst the changing climate. So we implement interventions around biodiversity conservation, around landscape restoration, climate smart, complementary activities. And then currently we are now collaborating with Tangelic to work with communities to introduce what we call renewable energies to these communities. So if you went to the communities where we operate, most of them are not connected to the national grid. So you have, health health centers or CHIPS compounds that don't have electricity, which has a serious impact on the delivery of healthcare to the communities where these health posts are situated. And also some of them also rely heavily on traditional means of energy to cook. So they cut trees or they log or burn charcoal to engage or to prepare their meals. And so we are trying to see how we can also promote or introduce clean cookstoves to these communities so that the exposure to the smoke or to indoor pollution will be reduced or eliminated. And so last year, somewhere in May, we got in touch with Tangelic. Actually, the Tangelic director reached out to us. I think he saw our post on LinkedIn and also read more about our work from our website. So we had some online conversation, and then following that, he came down to Ghana for some explorative survey and engagement of CSOs, civil society organizations that they can engage or partner with. So after the engagement, he was excited about the work we do in the local communities, and then fast forward, we signed an MOU, and then we started designing, interventions to see how we can hit the fault. So our focus on our Sunrise Spectrum Initiative, that's the SSI initiative, is to see how we can work with local communities to introduce solar electricity to underserved communities. So communities that are not connected to the national grid in particular. So that these communities, once they have access to electricity, solar electricity, students can read or can engage in learning the evening when they are back from schools. Healthcare can be better, can be improved. Businesses, smaller businesses or small scale businesses in these communities that need electricity to operate can also thrive. And so, and also beyond that, we'll also be introducing the clean cook stove. So, we want to introduce cook stove that are aligned to the local communities. So that they can still prepare their traditional meals without any challenges. So we're doing a lot of consultation with these communities to see what works for them. And also, the idea is that we don't want to send them an innovation or technology that is not aligned with their traditional way of life. So, Green for Change being on the ground, I'll be engaging these communities, taking data from them to see what options works for them, so that when the final products are agreed on and it is distributed to the communities, there will not be any issues with adoption and also the use of these technologies to their benefit.
Yeah, I appreciate that. The adoption of it, I think, is key. We've talked about that a lot on the show, where sometimes it's forcing a solution coming from outside, and this feels very natural, very of the way that the communities already are organized. I was interested, John, as I was hearing you speak about these communities that are off the grid. Do you have an idea of how many people, how many members of the community that are off grid in Ghana?
So in Ghana, I think about 80% of the communities are connected to the national grid. So the remaining 20%, even though the government is making effort to extend electricity to these communities, but those in the hinterland, or those that are deep into that are far from the main roads, are usually not connected to the national grid. And then these are smaller communities with, let's say, households of about 150 to 200 people. Households. And then each household can have an average of, let's say, eight members in the household. And because these people, these households, they rely on agriculture for their as a livelihood. They don't use so much gadgets. So they just need lights to power their, to mount a bulb, or to power a bulb, or to charge their phone, or to charge a small sound system that they can play to entertain themselves. So they're not using high consuming gadgets, and so it's a simple system that can enable them to lighten their bulbs, and then also enable their kids to study should be enough to address their energy needs.
Yeah, and you keep talking about working with local communities and sort of that work of involving them through consultations and these kinds of activities. What does active participation look like from them? What does it look like? How can you tell a community is engaging and we're doing something that is collaborative?
So the enthusiasm is really high. I was so excited doing the community entries and the sensitization. I was so happy about the enthusiasm and the interest of the interest groups in the community in this initiative. So everybody, from the opinion leaders, the chiefs, the assembly members, women leaders, youth leaders, they were all so much interested in this initiative. And they want to be involved every step of the way. So every step of the intervention, they want their views or their input to be incorporated in the final decision making, which for me is exciting. Well, it then means that if you bring the technology, and then there's there's an issue or a breakdown along the line, because that enthusiasm and the interest, and because they were involved in every step of the way, they'll be willing, or they'll be committed to fixing the situation or the challenge or the breakdown, even without your support. And so some of them were even advocating that we build their capacity to enable them repair, or to be able to fix like basic repair work, particularly on the cook stove, and then the solar that will be the solar panel that will be distributing to these communities. The idea is that there are people with limited skill or knowledge in the maintenance of these, or some of these systems. So if their capacity is built, not everybody, but some key members in the community who will be willing to be trained to do minor repairs or maintenance work, they'll be so excited to receive that, in addition to the intervention that will be promoted. So that in the event that the initiative, funding period or project period elapses, and then there are issues along the line, they can easily address it on their own to ensure sustainability of the whole intervention and program. So the collaboration is there, and then beyond the communities, I think the government institutions are also very interested in this. So the district assemblies, the ministries, and the department agencies are so interested in this. So they see this to be complementing their efforts, and also supporting to address teething challenges in the communities where we operate.
Have you seen, John, that the cookware itself is kind of up to their standard? They're able to actually produce their traditional dishes in the way that they want to. Have you seen that the food tastes just as good coming off that versus the more traditional cooking methods?
Yes, and that's why consultation is necessary. So currently, we've not distributed the cook stove yet. We are still in a design stage, trying to get the option that best fits the context, that fit the local context. So, like I said earlier, we don't want to send a technology or cook stove that people cannot prepare their local meals. So if you go to northern Ghana, there's this meal they call TZ, Tuzafi. It's prepared from maize, and then usually you need very good energy or cook stove to prepare that. So imagine you have a household of about 20 people. So it means you need a cook stove that can prepare a meal that can feed this number of people. So all those consultations are being done. So then at the end of the process, what we'll be delivering to these communities is what that they can identify with, is something that they can prepare their meal efficiently. So the duration one will use with the traditional methods, at least using the clean cook stove, it should be similar duration or even lesser. So the efficiency, the timeliness of the cook stove in terms of how long it takes to prepare the meal, all those things are being factored into deciding what option to go in for. Because I'm sure once we are done with all this engagement, and then we decide on the final option to go in for in terms of cook stove, I don't think there will be any reservation or any issues from the community regarding its usage or adoption.
Yeah, that was a really important question to Jensen as the chef of the group. So
yeah, that's my background. So I want to know, can it cook? Can it get hot? That's important.
Yes, very important. I agree.
So yeah, thank you for that. And I think from what I'm hearing, you talk with communities very often throughout this process of implementation and design, figuring out what works with them. And I can imagine there's a lot of trust there. So how do you establish that trust when you come in to work with a community, maybe for the first time? What is it that you have learned works to connect with the community in this way where this work is so collaborative?
So the main thing is how you enter the community, like how you do your community entry, and then the stakeholders or the interest group that you are getting on board. And also in doing all this engagement, usually what we try to prevent is not to build their expectation beyond what the project can deliver. So we try to be as open and candid as possible, so that we don't build the expectation beyond what we can provide. Because when you do that, and then at the end of the day, the expectations are not met, subsequently when you come to engage them, they don't take you serious. So in all our interventions, right from the community entries to the delivery of the intervention, and then the evaluation, all of that, we try to be measured in our engagement and in our communication with these communities. And then we try to also involve even the opinion leaders or the chiefs or traditional authorities, so they can lead or take charge of the implementation of some of the programs. So the mobilization of the community members, selection of venue, and then even doing the initial engagement and welcoming statement, we let the traditional authorities or the opinion leaders to do those preparatory, engagement and work. That way, when the community members see their leaders leading or taking center stage of the intervention, they are motivated or encouraged to support the process. So all these, approaches help in building trust and also ensuring that we get everybody carried along throughout the implementation of our interventions and programs in the communities where we operate. Currently, we are working on some projects that is focused on addressing the cultural and behavioral barriers associated with tree planting and nurturing. We observe that over the years, we plant trees, or NGOs, government institutions come to support communities to plant trees to restore their degraded landscape. But then, after the planting process, it's like we all go to sleep. The nurturing and the care of the trees is not always there. The aggression with which we go out to plant, we don't follow up with the nurturing with the same aggression. So we don't know whether there's some cultural barriers to this, such that when they plant, they're not motivated to nurture the trees to grow. And so for this project, we are trying to work with the communities to see how we can identify some of these behavioral barriers or cultural barriers, and then we can use behavior change techniques or campaigns to address these barriers so that our tree planting programs can be enhanced. And so in some of the communities, they were like, oh, if we involve their chiefs and their opinion leaders so that they can take center stage of the implementation, because these are prominent people in the community, once they're involved, members of the community will be willing to support the process. So some of these approaches can really help in ensuring that you achieve greater successes with your project initiative.
That they take pride in it because it comes from them.
Yes. So for once they're involved, they own the process. They take ownership of the process. And then if there are any outcome or results coming from the initiative, they identify the results, and then they're able to even adopt or scale it up for maximum impact or outcome.
Is there a number of trees that you're trying to plant as part of that program? Is there a number in mind?
Last year we planted over 60,000, trees, targeting the Moli landscape, which is the biggest or the largest national park in the country. So last year we planted over 60,000 seedlings or trees across 21 communities in in the Moli landscape. So this year, we are planning to upscale or to scale up that project. And then we'll be involving 60 more communities in addition to the 21. And we are planning to distribute over 120,000 seedlings this year. But for now, we are still exploring for funding for the upscaling phase. It's looking promising, and once funding is secured, we will work with the communities to identify those who are interested in tree planting. Then we'll support them to restore their degraded areas.
That's amazing. And I think you bring a good point that people think you sort of just put the tree on the ground and kind of forget about it. So what does an aftercare look like, and what involvement will communities have in that aftercare?
So a lot of things or activities need to be done post the planting of the tree. So planting is just one step. Most of the work is now the aftercare. So once you plant, and then even the timing, the timeliness of the planting also counts here, because in Ghana we run called the monomodal rainfall pattern. So we have just one big rainy season, which ran for about 4 to 5 months. So after that rainy season, you enter into the dry season, and that's when the trees need more care in terms of watering, in terms of protection against domestic animals and wild animals. We train them on how to nature, how to water the trees, and how to even adopt simple technologies like the use of the drip irrigation technology, by recycling empty water bottles and then filling them with water, and then boring a hole at the bottom and placing it at the base of the plant, so that the water can be dripping gradually into the soil for the plants to get hydrated. And so we also train them on mulching, so that they can mulch, like put adequate mulch at the base of the plant to retain moisture for the tree. Beyond that, in the dry season, because there's no green, wild animals and domestic animals tend to graze or feed on the trees that are planted. So we try to engage them so that they can establish smaller fence around these planted trees, so that they don't get destroyed by wild animals or domestic animals. And then where it becomes necessary, they dialogue with the animal owners. So if there are herders around the community, they dialogue with them so that they can't rather send their animals to places where they're not there are no farmlands, side that their trees don't get destroyed by these wild animals or domestic animals. So those are some of the things we do, and they also train them on what we call orchard maintenance, like how to prune, how to create fire belt. Because in the dry season, that's the period we see or experience a lot of bushfires. So you can imagine if fire enters your farm and burn all your farm produce. So it means everything on your farm will get destroyed. So we train them on how to establish fire belt around their farms, so that when the bush burns, their farm product, their trees don't get destroyed. Yeah. So all those training models are conducted with the aim of protecting or nurturing the trees that they plant.
Yeah. Wow, Green for Change Ghana is doing a lot. It seems like you guys have a lot of initiatives that are very focused on the community and sort of, I don't know, amassing a lot of areas of life that people probably don't take into account, like after planting a tree. So I'm just interested to hear about what was your motivation to start Green for Change Ghana? Where did it come from? And what sort of keeps you motivated and hopeful in this fight against climate change and environmental degradation?
Yes, so it started up in 2018. When I completed university in 2013, I've been working largely with non-governmental organizations, so both international and local organizations. And I mean, in the area of agriculture and then climate change and biodiversity conservation. So I noticed that most of these projects that we used to implement were, I mean, they are donor funded. So they come with timelines. So you have a very beautiful project. Anyway, so you have a very beautiful project that you are implementing, and after the project elapses, you lose touch with the grassroots. So you can have a project that is doing so well, but then after the project elapses or the funding period elapses, then you go back you go back to the communities again post the implementation, and then you see that adoption rates are very low. So I was like, why not establish Green for Change that is based and that is close to these communities, so that even though we also rely on donor funding, but because we are closer to these communities, when our funding even period elapses, we can still occasionally go to these communities to support them in the adoption of the practices that we're promoting under these programs and projects. So we established it in 2019, myself and a colleague, and a third person. So we're three that came together to establish it. And since then, we won projects from the Swiss Development Corporation, from USDA, that's United States Department of Agriculture, from Adamas Watkins Foundation, based in Switzerland, and then some other donors. And all these projects that we've won have been centered around climate change, again, around conservation, around natural resource conflict management, around livelihood, creating alternative livelihood for communities to depend on, rather than, engaging in unsustainable practices. And so it has been exciting. And then for us, what keeps us, going is seeing people adapting to the changing climate. Because if I, for instance, there's some community where we used to we do some projects. We provide them we supply them with beehives to engage in beekeeping, because they were so much dependent on wildlife. So they go to poach or kill wild animals to sell as a livelihood. Some also used to burn charcoal or engage in logging as a means of sustaining themselves. So we thought that giving them beehives to engage in beekeeping could help prevent that. And with just 2 or 3 beehives, you can harvest, 2 times or twice a year. So, and then what you get from the beekeeping is probably more than what you get from poaching or burning charcoal to go and sell. So going back to this community and seeing people, sustaining their livelihood for the beekeeping initiative excites some of us. We feel so excited that some of these initiatives are helping communities to stop unsustainable practices that has an impact on the environment and the future generation. And that for us keeps us going. And day in, day out, we receive emails and then emails from partners seeking to collaborate with us to deepen what we do, which means that what we're doing is exciting people outside there, and they are interested in supporting us to scale up our activities to achieve even greater results and impact, which is something.
That's amazing. And I think our audience will agree that this is very entertaining and very interesting to learn about. So definitely check out the description to read more about Green for Change, Ghana.
Yeah, thank you too. And then we are active on LinkedIn and also on Facebook, and our website is also updated almost every day. So if you want to learn more about Green for Change, you can find us. You can locate us on LinkedIn or Facebook, or even visit our website for more information about what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're talking about what motivates you. I can just tell you, and I'll speak for Victoria and everyone at Tangelic, the work that you do is one of the big motivators for us. to get out here and speak through the podcast and be able to amplify your voice and the voices of so many that don't get heard often enough. So it's a real honor for us to be able to speak with you. And we got a little bit more. So as everyone knows who watches the show, we're going to stay on with John for just a little bit longer and ask a few more questions for that exclusive blog content. But once again, this was John Sumbo of Green for Change Ghana. We've been talking a greener Ghana, restoring nature and nurturing hope. And clearly, you have accomplished helping us with the title of this episode, because this is absolutely instilling an immense amount of hope for the future of Ghana and for us to model what you're doing there in so many other communities across the globe. So, John, we really appreciate you being a part of the show and doing the work that you're doing. So thank you so much. And everyone, we appreciate you for tuning in.
Thank you.
Let's talk power, let's talk change. From rural lights to brighter days. Equity rising, voices strong. We're building tomorrow where we all belong. Tangelic Talks, energy, equity, pride. Empowering the world, side by side. A spark becomes a fire, a vision that's true. Together we rise, it starts with you.